name is Ken Wyatt. I was an electronics technician in the Navy for 14 years. Ultimately, I like fixing things, making things work as good as they can. People that were in the Navy that I talked to said that electronics technician was a good rate. Started doing a little research and realized that I could do something like that on the outside. So I almost wasn't an ET. Basically, when you go to school, you're in advanced electronics school, which from that school, halfway through it, you can choose whether to be an ET or a fire controlman. Luckily, I was high enough in the class to where I could actually choose which rate I wanted to be. And with all the research I was doing and all the equipment, I just thought electronics technician was the best suit. My specific job was, in the beginning, it was communications. I was an HF technician, working on the radio transmitters and receivers for high frequency equipment. And then towards just before the middle of the time I was in, I went to school for IFF, identification, friend or foe, and from that point basically turned into a radar technician. My very first port visit ever in the Navy was St. Thomas, which was amazing. But since there, been to a lot of places that I actually would love to go back to. Mykonos, Greece, Malaga, Spain, all up and down both coasts of Italy. That's pretty much, there's a lot of places in the Med. Can't really pinpoint one particular favorite one. I liked them all. My equipment is at the very top of the mast, and in order to go aloft, normally you're in port with all the engines shut down and everything, with all the radars. You have to shut the radars down so that there's no radiation. But while we were working up for a deployment, we found an issue with my equipment. As we were transiting across the Atlantic, we actually got the part in to repair that equipment, and since it was a pretty important piece of equipment, they wanted it up as soon as possible, and they didn't want to wait until we pulled into port in a week and a half, 2 weeks. They wanted it up as soon as possible. So we got the part on board, and we waited until the seas were calm and shut everything down, and I actually went up the mast while the ship was underway in the middle of the ocean, which was pretty amazing. You're up there doing work, and then you decide to take a look around and everything, and there's no land as far as you could see. The water's nice and calm, almost like glass. It was an amazing experience. Something I'll never forget. I'm pretty proud of the fact that I was in the Navy for 14 years. I've always wanted a sleeve, and I figured if I can get something that actually has meaning to me, then it's something I'm gonna like, instead of just getting a bunch of random things that don't have meaning. Like that's King Neptune with his trident. King Neptune, Poseidon, it's pretty much the same god. They're both gods of the sea, but one's Greek and one's Roman. Got a swallow with a banner. It's got the hull numbers of the ships. The swallow traditionally symbolizes doing 5,000 miles at sea. The turtle, the sea turtle, is another symbol for uh, when you cross the equator. They call you a shellback, and that's what the sea turtle represents. Um, my rating badge, the electronics technician symbol. The anchor is just a symbol of crossing the Atlantic, and I've done that 6, 7 times. And the compass rose is just a symbol of so that basically sailors can find their way home. If you decide to join, don't go in with I know everything. I'm the biggest badass there is, because there's those are the ones that they make I guess teacher's pet. Know that there's going to be probably a million things that do not make sense to you, but there is a reason behind everything that's being done. And know that in the end, it might not make sense at the time, but in the end, everything will kind of make sense. And you'll have that moment of, oh, that's why we were doing everything.